Boy, howdy. What a what a boring 40 minutes was that. And then the next 25? Whoo, my goodness. Sharks somehow take on Martin Jones and well, I hate to say it, but Martin Jones does Martin Jones things. We'll break down this game. We'll break down Tomas Hertl, why he should take all of Evander Kane's money. Well, that doesn't sound right. And the situation with Evander Kane going on right now. This is Teal Town After Dark. Good evening, everyone. It is Saturday night, January 8th, 2022. The San Jose Sharks, thanks to Tomas Hertl, get the victory in Philadelphia. They somehow scrapped 4 points out of this 4-game road trip, and they win 3-2. Welcome to this edition of Teal Town After Dark. This is your live interactive Sharks post game. We do this after every game, so of course, do yourself a favor. If you want to be part of the show, Teal together and chat with us and fellow Sharks fans on the page or the app. Of course, follow us on the social, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Hit that subscribe button to YouTube. Tell your friends about it. Tell them to hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to check us out on SoundCloud, Reddit, and of course, Discord after the show. And find everything at tealtownusa.com. Good evening, everyone. Alongside yours truly, still in COVID protocol, I have Ian Reid.
Hello.
And of course, making his annual appearance on After Dark, it seems like that's what we do, right? Felix Chow, what's happening, buddy?
Nothing much. Just, glad that the Sharks came out tonight with their win, and we'll obviously cover it in more detail as we go along in tonight's show. But fun must be always. Am I right?
That's for sure. Fun must be always. And if we had snow in the area, I would say we do some snow angels in Tomas Hertl case. So we got a lot to get to tonight, so let's just get into it. The Sharks, the last game of a 4-game road trip. Get 5 minutes into the game. Jonah Gadjevich somehow gets injured. I looked for it on the replays, guys. I didn't see it. That doesn't help things, along with Nick Bonino and assistant coach John McLean going into COVID protocol just a couple hours beforehand. And guys, I'll start with you, Ian. All kinds of helter-skelter lineups for the Sharks. It's slowly becoming Sharkakuda.
Yeah, it's kind of a mess, isn't it? And then, you have guys like Gadjevich and VL on a line together. Again, I think under normal circumstances, one of those guys is lucky to draw in regularly. But it wasn't like the Sharks weren't the only ones that had the problem. I think on the other side of the ice, I don't think it would be a fair narrative to say, oh, well, the Sharks didn't do so well in the first part of the game because they're undermanned. The Flyers are just as undermanned as the Sharks are, probably worse, to be honest. So, yeah, definitely, it's a problematic thing that's happened to the Sharks this season, but they're not alone. A lot of teams are having troubles keeping guys in the lineup, and the good teams are the ones that can keep going, and I think the Sharks have done an admirable job keeping going when things with the way things have gone. But there was a couple of games there where obviously it was a mess, but it's nice to see that they've kind of gotten back to the hockey that's made them, not super successful. Obviously, this team's still it's still decently out of the playoffs, but any success they've had, it's had from playing the style of hockey they played tonight.
And Felix, we finally get the matchup I think Sharks fans have been waiting for. The return of Martin Jones. I'm resisting Ian from going off right now, so we'll hold off on that. I'll ask you, what were you thinking, and especially those first 2 periods of Martin Jones taking on the Sharks?
So in terms of Martin Jones, I thought, I personally, for me, I thought especially considering it was scoreless through it too. Both goalies did what they were supposed to do. They were supposed to stop the puck. They, kept the puck out of the net, and both teams had chances. It was, you know, Martin Jones. I mean, are we used to seeing like a Martin Jones that can stop a puck? Probably not later on in his contract, but but like I mean, and of course, um, but yeah, I just again, both goalies did what they were supposed to do. So
Right. So we get into it. Not gonna lie, uh, it was fairly even, like 26-25 in the shots after two periods. Definitely on pace for the Sharks to go over 40, and I think probably half of the Sharks fan base would tell you, Ian, that over 40 shots. This just seems like a recipe for a Martin Jones shutout, and
It
it almost turned into that.
it's funny because before, like, just like, I think maybe just when the game started in the Discord, I joked that this was going to be like a 1-0 shootout game because, like, of course it would be, right? Like, you have Adin Hill, who's struggled mightily this season, I think, who had a good game tonight. I think there was one goal against Adin Hill that I wasn't too thrilled of, the first goal. And then Martin Jones is Martin Jones. So of course, you think that this should be on paper like another 7-6 game, but because it's the way that the season is gone, I was like, okay, so this is gonna be like a 1-0, game settled in a shootout. Martin Jones gets the shutout. Like, that would be our luck, right? And it was looking pretty good for that first two periods.
Oh man. I mean, we get into the third period. I mean, not to gloss over the first two periods, boys, but I mean, there wasn't a lot that happened.
There's not a lot. Like, yeah, the first two periods, there's not really much to discuss there. I mean, I thought the Sharks played decently. I thought the Flyers probably had some of the better chances. Like, I think Adin Hill deserves a lot of credit tonight. I thought Adin Hill played a really good game, which he's played a couple now, which is good. I mean, obviously, Adin Hill's had a shaky season so far. His first year in San Jose hasn't been fantastic, but I think he deserves a lot of credit. Again, I think the first goal I didn't like. The second goal, the puck deflects, it goes over top of his shoulder, and Ferraro can't bat it out of the net, and that's fine. I mean, I don't blame Hill for that. It's just a deflection that bounces over top of him. He's set to face the shot. Shot never gets to him. That happens. Like, that happened. That could happen to him. That could happen to, a guy like who's significantly better, like an Igor Shesterkin, for example.
But Felix, I'll ask you on the first goal from Van Riemsdyk. I wasn't a big fan of seeing Vlasic get burned there.
yeah, and the thing is, and look, we've harped on Vlasic. Y'all have harped on Vlasic a ton, and obviously and I've said this before on social media. It really just bums me out to see Vlasic just continue to have just not a great, year, or and essentially have a decline in his contract. And it's just. Yeah, it's not a great sight to see, especially if you're watching like what used to be one of the most reliable shutdown team that the Sharks had, and it's just to see him go downhill in recent seasons. It's not great.
Yeah. I want to ask you guys this from Bill Walker. Has Hill found his game again? He looked pretty good. That's a strong remark to make, LOL. Now, the thing is, I'll start with you, Ian, on this one.
Mm-hmm.
That power play started. I mean, I think that might be an underrated save of the game with that power play. That shorthanded chance by Farabee as he made a beautiful kick save by Hill.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, look, again, I think Adin Hill had a really good game tonight. I think, he allowed 2 goals. I thought one was bad. The other one was a deflection. Again, that bounced over top of him. He's set to face the shot. The puck floats over top of him. It's unfortunate. But there's not really much you can do as a goalie when you're set like that. And then, that's where you need your defenseman to bail you out. And unfortunately, Ferraro couldn't get the puck out of the air. But The last couple of games Aiden Hill's played, he's been pretty good. Am I completely won over and I'm on, Team Hill again? No, but I think with games like this, you can get there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And sorry, and just to interject, just to follow up on that, I do think that that save right there was obviously it was a really really big save and kept the Sharks in it, but it was just Hill, see what you want about Hill like this season overall. That was definitely a save that he should. I think that was basically a really great save by Hill that he really needed. We'll put it that way.
He needed that save himself. I think the Sharks needed that save as well. And they carried the momentum off because then all of a sudden, while it was a minute after the Flyers made it 2-0 on their power play goal, the Sharks would get on the board first. Tomas Hertl from Meier and Burns. For Meier, that would end up being his first of 2 assists on the night. For Burns, his first of 3. Felix, just seems like there's some good chemistry going on there with Timo and Hertl. Hertl definitely taking advantage while Couture's on COVID protocol to kind of get over, trying to make sure there's some more, help with the scoring wise.
I mean, Hurdle's definitely up in that trade value, as you know. But yeah, no, he's been look, he's been the player that he needs to be and that this team needs him to be. And with with guys out, like he's one of the players that definitely has needed to step up, and he did tonight. And we definitely saw that from him.
And Burns, who kind of has had that little rough stretch, he gets 3 assists on a night. Ian,
yeah, Burns giveth, Burns taketh away. I mean, that's been the theme of him since he's been here, right? Yeah, I think obviously, look at that line's been really good. The Sharks definitely they're feeling it mostly in their forward group as far as missing guys. Like missing Couture is a big hole because they don't have a guy that can replace Couture. Like there's they don't have that. There's no guy in the system that's going to come up and do what Logan Couture does for this team. So it's definitely a hole. But it's nice to see that Timo Meier and Hertl kind of gelling together and getting things done tonight.
Yeah, and it was a nice little shot by Hertl to get that going 1-0, and then like we said, they had a power play. Hill makes that big save, keeps the momentum going, and then with about 5.5 to go, Hertl. I don't know how that went in. It just seems like
it was a weird goal.
It was one of those weird ones where it's like it was bouncing, and just that little extra move. I think from Jones put it in himself to tie it up at 2-2. So, Felix, we go from oh God, hashtag that's so Sharks, hashtag oh crap, Joner's gonna get the post-Teal syndrome going, and then all of a sudden, whoa, where did this come up? Finally, some resiliency that we've seen from some of the teams past.
Yeah, sorry to jump on you, Felix, but I mean they really did a good job of in the third period. Like they really came on. It was unlike that last game where everything kind of fell apart as the game went on. Like the Sharks got better as the game went on. So it was nice to see them kind of rectify that situation because that's been a problem. And it was nice to see that they came on as the game went on.
Yeah, and honestly, look, y'all have been ranting about how bad the Sharks have been during that just really bad stretch of recent games. And this was a game I think the Sharks also needed to pile into their, I guess, if you want to call it their feel-good sort of column, if you will. But this was a game that I think that they needed to win. And that third period really showed, that, they were still in it. They didn't want to, let their foot off the gas anymore. And this was a That was a really good third period, I thought, by the Sharks.
Yeah, it seemed like the team resiliency, chemistry really came into play here, guys. I think you had some big saves from Hill. You definitely got some chances, especially even early on before Philly had made it 1-0. You saw those chances coming from like the likes of Nieto and Cogliano, little things here and there. Go ahead, Felix.
And the Sharks really didn't have much of a bad game, tonight. I mean, if minus like maybe again the goal on Ian Hill's glove side, I think the Sharks really, they played a good game tonight. It's they were rewarded for their efforts.
Indeed, they would as they go into overtime. Tomas Hertl would get that break. Used Meier as a decoy, takes it himself. I mean, honestly, I think how many times have we expected this, Ian, for them to like shoot first, don't look for the pass, shoot first, and Hertl buries one past Jones and a natural Hattie for Tomas.
Yeah, the one thing on the one goal, first on this goal here is that's the Martin Jones we all remember, I'm sure. The second thing was surprised. The one thing that really frustrated me about the Sharks game tonight was they didn't really make Jones move a whole lot. Like there was a lot of outside shots that didn't really. Martin Jones, get him going side to side and he's in trouble. And I found that the Sharks didn't really do that as much this game as I would have liked. Mm-hmm. And probably credit a little bit to the Flyers defense for that too. But I think that's the only thing that frustrated me about this game was just after, these guys know the book on Jones. They played with him for 3 years. They've seen the horror show that is Martin Jones. And I wish they would have tried to capitalize on some of Jones's weaknesses a little more, like trying to get him to move side to side. And I think he didn't have to move a whole lot here, but it was enough, and Hertl made him pay.
And I do agree on that point, Ian. I did notice that while the goalies did what they should have done, I think or we're supposed to do, I think that the Sharks could have had Jones moving a little more. Maybe again, who knows? They could have maybe gone on this scoreboard earlier and scored a couple goals. Who knows? But I mean, I agree with you on that one.
Yeah, I mean, we all know the book. They all know the book. I mean, there's a little bit of me that kind of figures that this team should have won, 5-0 in that case. And yeah, you guys are right. They played a really good, solid game where, it looked like they were going to get goalied. It looked like, like we talk about the Ben Scrivens game of like just 40 plus shots and nothing's just not going in, and I believe, if I remember not mistaken, do you remember how many shots the Sharks did end up? Like 47.
He made 40. Yeah, he made 40, 44, 47 shots, 47 shots, 44 saves.
Yeah, 44 saves and 47 shots.
936 save percentage. I mean, it helped a little bit. I mean, it was better than, him pitching a shutout, obviously. But, his save percentage might actually go up after this game, even though that he lost and the Sharks went up and the Sharks won 3. His save percentage might go up a touch, but that's fine. I mean, I'll take the win every day. What did you guys think of Šimek being scratched?
That's an interesting one, and I want to go through. I thought I saw something in what Bugner mentioned here. I'm trying to see if I can pull it up here really quick, because he had. Here we go. Kudos, Nick Merkley had a really strong game. Gadjevich has an upper body injury. We'll look at that in the morning. We have kind of an injury bug going around. Šimek has a lower body injury, and that's why he was scratched. So I kind of saw that over there, so I saw where you're going with that. So
yeah, because on the broadcast they said it wasn't for injury. It wasn't for injuries, and I thought, like, I'm not on the Šimek is back train. Like this. I know there's been a lot of Šimek is back, and I am not on that train. But I didn't think like he had done anything scratch worthy either.
No, I thought he played fairly well. I think Bugner's been hoping he uses his body a little bit more, which I think he has. But I think at the same time, though, I mean, is that really his game? Is he having to change his game around to fit into a role, especially on
I
a
don't
fair
think
pair?
so. I think he's playing like I said, I'm not on like I don't agree with the, oh man, Shimmick's back, but I think he's doing a lot of the things that made him successful earlier. I still think that, I mean, it's like I said last show, right? Jake Middleton's doing the same thing for like half the price, quarter of the price.
Yeah, and Shimmick is, like you said, Puck guy. He's been taking a body. He's been, doing all the physical things that you would kind of expect him to do. So I mean, I don't, I think he's, essentially doing his job. And I'm with Ian that I'm not completely on like the Shimmick is back train either, but he's been doing what he needs to do.
Yeah, and just little.
Sorry, AJ in the chat. Ian relied on the broadcast for reliable information. Yeah, that's on me. You're right. That's totally on me. I mean, again, I wasn't really paying attention, so I didn't. With everything going on today, I didn't really. I hope they'd get something right. Jeez.
Hey, you know what? They thought that Martin Jones was traded via Buffalo to here, so earlier in the broadcast.
You're right. You're right.
Boston, Buffalo,
Sabres apparently.
I get it.
Totally.
See, the thing is that the little stuff like that is why I mean, I get there's some logistical issues going on, but I get as to why I miss having Han and Hetty and whoever on the road.
Their boots aren't on the ground, right? Like they're in the studio. So I get it. I mean the Buffalo thing is obviously an annoying snafu, but like not knowing, not getting an answer and just being, well, maybe Bugner scratched him because Bugner's kind of been on a scratching spree lately. Like I get that.
Yeah, and that's a tough one to do, and that's why I miss the guys being out on the road so much. Let's go through some of the comments from the guys tonight.
Let's do it.
Hertl, I'm really proud of everyone in the room. We worked really hard to get these 2 points tonight. Yeah,
Hertl, you're right. You worked really hard and put the whole team on your back. But, congratulations. I hope you don't end up needing. Well, I mean, look like if Jack Eichel comes back quick, if Hertl's neck goes out because he's carrying around the whole team on his back like Jack Eichel carried the Sabres, then at least we know there's a quick surgery for him.
He could be back in time for the playoff push at this rate. My gosh, like what Eichel had it in December, right? And
something crazy like that.
And they're already talking about him being back in February, which is absolutely ridiculous. But moving on. From Bob Bugner, this is huge after those embarrassments in Pittsburgh and Detroit. Hills found his game again. It was his best third period of our year. Felix, they were really promoting the broadcast tonight about how Hill's been a third period goaltender.
Yeah, look. I mean, I think for Hill, I think he needs to keep doing what he needs to do. And I'm gonna steal a Steve Dingleism, a recent Steve Dingleism, but if you're a goaltender, tend the goal, and I think that's what Aiden Hill did tonight, and that's what he needs to keep doing.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Aiden Hill, like the key to Aiden Hill's success is he needs to use his frame. He needs to challenge the shooter, and he needs to not wander away. I think because there's a couple times where he kind of chased the puck around behind the net and it didn't stop. It just kept going and he's behind the net, right? So I think I think the big key for Aiden Hill's success is he has to have the confidence to come out and challenge the shooter and use his big frame. And then gobble up those rebounds. That's I think if Aiden Hill can do that, then I think he would have a lot more success than he's had this year.
Indeed. I think the Sharks, you gave up Koshinash and some picks for him. They're kind of expecting him to at least be the guy going forward in the near future. Granted, Reimer played his butt off this first half of the season. Yes, he's had some hiccups in the last few games, but you wonder how healthy he really was. In
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah, the fact that he had those games and then now he's got a lower body, I mean, that's definitely concerning. I think with Adin Hill too, I think the Sharks were smart about it this time around because he's only on a 2-year deal. So like they're definitely giving him the opportunity to try and be the guy. But the good thing about what the Sharks did this summer is if he's not the guy, then no big deal. You go and find another guy. It doesn't, like just because you traded some picks and a guy, like Kozanash, I still think at best absolute ceiling is an NHL backup, and he's had a really rough go this year in the Coyote system. So I know, it's like, oh, we gave up this and this and a second round pick, but really, if it doesn't work out and the Sharks, leave themselves the luxury to say, okay, this Adin Hill thing didn't work and we can go and find another guy in a year, I'm fine with that. Like, it happens. They took a chance. Sometimes you swing and you miss. It's better to swing and miss on a 2-year deal than on a 5-year deal or a 6-year deal or 7-year deal or an 8-year deal.
Hello, Martin Jones.
Hello, Mark Edward Vlasic.
Yeah.
That too.
Yeah, for sure, guys. And remember, it all started with Brent Burns and his 8x8. Oh boy! But moving on, and people are mentioning, just another Randy G. As I pull up the standings right now, Sharks in a wild card spot.
Don't even want to talk about
for
it.
Now.
Fool's gold.
For now, yes. At this moment, I'll get it out of the way, guys, so that way we don't have to go on for. But depending on everything that happens the rest of the way this evening, currently the Sharks holding down the second wild card spot. Granted, Edmonton has 2 games in hand. Minnesota, who's above them in the standings, have 4 games in hand on them. So the Sharks, while they've had 3 games postponed due to COVID, this is going to be the tough part, is all of the games that are made up. So all the games in hand are going to be really thrown off, especially, Felix, unless something happens in the next few weeks. The Sharks are going to be playing, unless they change up the schedule drastically, the Sharks are going to be playing 3 games between February 1st and February 24th.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm just pulling up the schedule real quick. Yeah, that's wow. And it's just looking at I'm just looking at the teams that they're facing. So it's gonna be what? The next 3 games are gonna be Detroit, Rangers, Pittsburgh. Yeah, that's gonna be
it's a murderer's row of teams coming.
I mean,
it's gonna be a tough one. We'll put it that way.
The good thing I think out of this all, though, guys, is that outside, I think, then their next big road trip, which is after this homestand, they're practically done in the East. So, they have virtually all their games against LA. Granted, LA I think is on the next homestand. They have all their games against Anaheim. They have 2 games up in Seattle, a bunch against, they still have to make up one against Vancouver. They got to make up one against Edmonton. So these guys are going to be on the West Coast for a bit. And it kind of reminds me of the year that the Sharks and Penguins went to the Cup final, where Pittsburgh was on the East Coast in Eastern time zone for like 3 or 4 months. Sharks are going to kind of get a little bit of that, within the next few weeks. And in fact, they practically stayed in California the entire month of December outside this road trip. So this could become a little bit of an advantage. They have to take advantage of it.
I mean, a lot has to go right for them from this point on, right? Like, ideally they'd get healthy,
right?
And then you have to start winning a ton of divisional games. And there's like some of the teams that I didn't think were going to be doing as good as they are doing really well. Now, granted, some teams are doing really bad. The Sharks are one of them, like the Sharks, Seattle, like there's teams that aren't doing good. But I mean, like, I don't think anyone saw the Ducks being this good this year.
Nope.
Right. I mean, so it's gonna be a long, hard road for them to get in, and I'm not sure if they get there yet.
Felix, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, like as for the standings go, it's gonna be a tough go for the rest of the way. I think, especially where the Sharks are, where they are right now. I mean, look, we've seen obviously what this team is capable of doing, and we've seen what this team looks like when they're listless and don't know how to hockey. So, yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, currently Calgary sits in the number 3 spot in Pacific at 40. Granted, they have 3 games in hand on San Jose.
Right. And again, and that's the thing, right? A lot of those games in hand are gonna probably, I mean, teams that are doing really well having games in hand, that doesn't help the Sharks at all. Denver Doyle had a really good question in the chat. I don't know if you want to throw it up on the screen there.
Let me get it in here. Here we go. Do you think this kind of game wants to make DW re-sign Hertl and or trade him higher value if we're still a bubble playoff team?
Yeah, the Hertl thing's really interesting, right? Because I don't know, like, if you ask my heart, I don't want Hertl to go anywhere, because I know that's the poll question too, right? It's like, what do you do? Does Hertl get Kane's money and he gets to stay now? It really depends on how far you think this team is away. But I mean, Doug Wilson at the start of the season said, I think this team's a lot closer than people thinks they are. But as AJ will point out, like, through the same number, I think they're 3 points ahead of where they were last year.
Right.
So I don't know. Like, my heart, obviously, my heart would like Tomas Hertl to stay here forever. But if the reality is you look at this team and you go, man, this isn't getting better anytime soon. And I know they will never say rebuild out loud because people will stop going to games. I don't know what you call what's going on right now, but if you say rebuild, then they'll really stop going to games. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to it's hard to get in Doug Wilson's mindset and see what he's thinking, right? I think you'd have to be delusional to think this team is any closer than it was last year. I don't. So at that point, are you, resetting whatever? I mean, Tomas Hertl could get you a hell of a lot in a trade. Even, at the deadline, yeah, it's a deadline rental, but teams pay through the nose for deadline rentals. And we know, like, the one thing that Doug Wilson, to his credit, can generally do well, it's trade. So I think he could get a hell of a return for Hertl. It really depends on where he sees the team, how far he sees the team being off, though. I think it's going to be tough to sell trading Hertl to some of the veterans, probably, who will be like, oh, I don't want to rebuild, whatever, because they're stuck here forever. And they've, but I know it's a real non-answer, but I don't know what they're thinking. And unfortunately, Hertl will be the bellwether to what they are thinking.
And I think, like, in this situation, in the situations that the Sharks are in right now, they're in a situation where, like, you're either trying to, again, and like you said, Ian, I don't know what to call what the Sharks are in either. So, but, like, they're in a situation where, like, they have, obviously they have a lot of young guys, but they're also, they have, they're essentially in this they're stuck in this middle transition where, like, you don't really know, like, how to really approach this, I suppose, you could say.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too, right? Like, you look at Hertl, like, and again, this goes back to what is the long-term plan. Like, Hertl's only, I think, 27 right now.
27, 28.
Yeah, 27, 28. But if this team isn't going to be good for 5 years, well, then he's 32. And let it be known, like, obviously, I said this last show too, like, when you come out the other side of this thing, you're still going to need veteran players. Like, it's not like you just completely strip this down to the bones and then just start playing 100% kids. We've seen teams try that. We saw Buffalo try it. We saw Edmonton try it. I don't want to be in perpetual rebuild because you didn't keep the right, because you didn't keep the right couple of vets around.
Right. Jimmy Reid in the chat asking what would be considered a good return for Hertl, because in my mind it's going to be a lot. And we see the things like, well, we got a first for Barclay Goodrow. I mean, Felix, what do you think? Really, I mean, obviously a first for sure, but there has to be additional assets, or is a first might be good enough, or what?
Oh no, I don't. No, the first round pick I don't think is going to be good enough. I mean, look, this guy Hertl is he's first of all. I mean, let's touch off the bat, like off the ice, he's an obvious fan favorite, and on the ice, he's a very skilled player. We've seen like what he can do. He's been here more than long enough. He's definitely, I think, gonna have to fetch more than just a first round pick. Maybe throw in a prospect. Yeah, it's definitely gonna have to be more than just like one like high pick.
Yeah, it starts with a first and an A+ prospect, like a top tier prospect and a first, and then you probably still add to that. But if the deal doesn't have a first and a top tier prospect, then you're not doing your job properly.
Yeah.
And does that change if you have to retain salary to how much goes up as well?
And if you're going to, that's a really good point. And you could obviously, and the Sharks have the luxury of, you can increase the value of that return by retaining salary to make. If you retain a bunch of salary, I mean, then do you add another first to that? Second, maybe, but I think if a first and an A+ prospect isn't in it, then I think that's where it starts. And then I think you can only go up from there, especially if you retain salary. Then the return absolutely goes up.
Because let's be honest here, guys, who's going to want him? Contenders that probably don't have a whole lot of cap space. And there are going to be teams that need some scoring badly. I mean, I'm not going to put out names, but there are going to be teams that are going to want to go all in, especially out on the East. I mean, have you seen how tight the race?
I think there's teams in the West that would probably look hard at Hertl. I think people are going to unsubscribe en masse when I say this.
Don't you dare unsubscribe. Go ahead. If
a certain team down in Southern California keeps being as good as they are, I think they look at them. I think if the Ducks think that they are a team, like if they think that this is their launch pad and it's only going up from here, why not ask Tomas Hertl and then get him under contract next year for whatever, right? Like, as much as that would break my heart, I think the Wild probably would take a hard look at Hertl, and I think the Rangers probably take a hard look at Hertl.
What about Oilers? Just another Randy G saying the Warriors would effing love Hertl.
Yeah, I don't know if they can they afford him though. I mean, they have to do something, but is that can they fit him long term? I'm not completely up with their cap situations. I don't know the long term prospects are for how, like, would that just be a rental for this season and then he goes to free agency, or do they keep him long term? That's the only question I have.
Yeah, that's the big one for sure. Is whether or not the teams that are going to grab these players are going to have any room, and is if a strict on rental. I mean, is there a team like Toronto? Dare I say that? Is there a team in like Toronto who will just go for it all and deal with the losses later? With it. I mean, granted, Toronto has given up.
I think if you're the Sharks, though, if you're Doug Wilson, you're going to look for, you want to go. You're going to want to send him to a team that can probably sign him, because then you can slap it. Hey, if you re-sign him, I get a conditional first, right? Like that's so they're probably, if I'm Doug Wilson, like obviously I want my first, I don't want my A+ prospect, but if I can get another conditional first out of you, because if you sign him in the next season, like that's got to be appealing, right? Which is why I mentioned the Ducks, even though people are really mad at me for it.
Oh yeah. The Oilers currently have $920,000 worth of cap space. Whoa. So yeah, that they might have to make some other moves to make that happen. So we'll see how that goes. But you look at I can't believe Montreal has that many issues going on right now, and they're barely at the cap. But it remains to be seen.
Having Carey Price on the LTIR helps that a lot when 10 million's off your cap.
That's a good point there. But looking at the bottom part of the teams in cap hell, Nashville, and there's a potential one that you guys mentioned, Anaheim, and the Rangers. There's always talk about Calgary, could maybe even St. Louis if that's the case. But
Daryl Sutter, would Hertl and Daryl Sutter though? Does that seem like a good pair to you? I don't know. Doesn't seem like a good pair to me. But hey, not my assets to trade.
All right. So with that, that closes the book on the game and the potential situation there. We'll quickly go over things of what's transpired today with the Sharks. So obviously we told you about McLean and Bonino going into COVID protocol. Somehow, some way, the Sharks are going to have to get Couture back and into San Jose along with Lane Peterson. Although granted, I think for some fans, I think that they could pass on having him pick up the airplane tab.
If only they had an owner worth like $9 billion or something. Probably has a jet.
Not wrong.
So if you missed it earlier, Jerk and I were on the YouTube channel talking about the Evander Kane situation. We do have a few more developments on that. We won't spend too much time, but Sheng Peng, a good friend of ours from San Jose Hockey Now, Bill Daly on the NHL's position with the Sharks terminating Kane's contract. I can say we are satisfied that they have adequate grounds to terminate. I'll start with that one there, guys. Felix, let's talk about this whole situation. What are your thoughts on this whole thing?
Well, look, I'm glad that first of all, I'm glad that Kane is finally going through the process to be off the team because, well, y'all already know my thoughts or really the podcast thoughts on Evander Kane. Yeah, and I do want to say that I was also one of those who was on board the Kane redemption tour and regret it very much. And but yeah, no, this is I feel like this was first of all, the Sharks did what they needed to do to get Kane off the books and off the team, and for the NHL to essentially agree with them, I think that says a lot about the current situation.
Yeah. I want to add. I did an article today. It's on teal10usa.com about this topic and kind of going into like what the next steps are and what could happen going forward. And I went digging around after Bill Daly kind of stood up and said, yeah, I think the Sharks did a good thing here. And I tried to see if I could find anything about the NHL making a comment on the Mike Richards situation from 2015. And I couldn't find anything. So maybe that's a good sign for the Sharks.
It's kind of unprecedented. I mean, the closest thing would be that Mike
Richards is the only. Yeah, I mean, Mike Richards is the only time that a team has tried to unilaterally end a contract. Every other contract that's ended, at least as far as I could research today, was mutual termination, which happens all the time. Like minor league players, they want to go back to Europe or whatever, or maybe, you know, they don't think there's an opportunity for them. And, you know, they can't really seem to work out a trade or anything. So they mutually terminate their contract, and then either, you know, maybe they sign on with another team in the AHL or go from there.
And we actually had the Sharks had that happen, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's happened a few times. Ivan Chekovich, Yoel Shellman. It happens all the time. Mutual contract terminations happen all the time. Slava Voyanov's a different animal. I can't remember. Okay, yeah, Slava Voyanov's interesting. And I'd have to go back and look deeper into the Voyanov thing, because did his contract just expire after the 1 year? Like, I know he got suspended, and then I think he just got suspended to the end of his contract. Am I wrong on this?
It sounded like it. Like I thought they had, like, it was either suspended. I think he was like suspended indefinitely, and then the contract was voided out.
His contract ran up, right? And then that was that. So yeah, I'd have to go back and do my double check on that. But I feel like he got suspended, and then his contract just ran up.
Oh, Landy, you know, you're breaking out the Animal House references there. If you haven't seen Animal House, shame on you. He could have been on double secret probation. Yeah, I mean, granted, there's a lot of things here, but I mean, Kevin Kurz, our good friend who's now doing the Islanders beat, says that the Sharks' Evander Kane contract termination stems primarily from him traveling to Vancouver while COVID positive, according to multiple sources.
And then not reporting back on time.
Yeah, which he was supposed to come back from. He came off of COVID protocol yesterday, but did not suit up for the Barracuda, playing the Henderson Silver Knights on this one. Guys, I mean, there's just so many things to unravel here. But my question to you is, and I'll say this because off air, even Puckmom was saying it as me and Jerk were off the air. Does he either not get it? Did he just destroy his career? Is he an idiot for not going through this and not taking this seriously?
I want to answer another question first, because a lot of people are like, well, how did he go back into Canada if he's COVID positive? And I feel like, and I could be wrong here again, but I feel like we got to remember that Kane is a Canadian citizen. So I think that as long as he agrees to go into isolation when he gets there, I don't think they can stop him from entering the country. Like, it's his country. That's a charter. That'd be a charter violation if they barred him from re-entering the country that he calls home. Even if he doesn't live there, like, he's still a Canadian citizen. He should be able to still come and go as he pleases. My understanding of it would be that upon arrival, he would have to quarantine. Now, whether he did that or not, I have no clue. Like, I don't, and I'm not going to speculate. But, yeah, I feel like it'd be a charter violation to not allow him to enter the country. But obviously, like, they're not just going to be like, hey, you have COVID, great, come on in and go give it to as many people as possible. They're going to tell him to quarantine.
And then, of course, his agent, Dan Milstein, I wonder what the name of his hockey agency is called. And if he has any, never mind. We are aware of the Sharks' decision to put Evander on waivers for contract termination. If he clears, we will file a grievance. The Sharks do not have sufficient grounds for taking this action.
Says him.
Says
I
him.
mean, right. I mean, look, okay, so obviously, I think everyone expected that there was going to be a grievance here, right? And I know some people are going to be really ticked off at the NHL, being like, oh, the NHLPA rather, and be like, oh my God, you're protecting Kane, read the room, blah, blah, blah. But that's not how this works. It's not how any of this works. Like, the NHLPA is there to protect, by their own bylaws, they're there to protect their membership. They don't get to pick and choose, oh, well, you're Connor McDavid, so we're going to protect you. But Evander Kane, fuck that guy. Like, as much as people would like to see that, That's not how it works. They have to do it, because if they just stand by and let this happen to Evander Kane without any grievance or anything like that, then when this happens to a player, if a team tries to spike a contract of a player that people like more, it's going to be a lot easier because the precedent's already there. So the PA has to fight this. They have to fight this tooth and nail. You don't have to like it. And I'm not telling you to like it, but understand how the world works.
That they have to do something. Go ahead, Felix. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, I look, and I'm not as I just wanted to say off the bat that I'm not as nearly as well versed on the business side as Ian is, but no, it's the NHLPA. Even though personally, I hate that they're doing this. Yes, they do have to do this, and look, Kane, and this is kind of answering your question from earlier, like whether or not Kane is an idiot for going through this and essentially possibly throwing his hockey career, the rest of his hockey career away unless another team takes him, which wouldn't surprise me. But look, Kane. Again, I'm just glad, even though this drama is likely not going away anytime soon. Still, I'm just glad that we don't have to mention his name in as a member of Team Teal anymore in the future. And look, he made his own bed, and obviously I hope that he gets the help he needs.
Yeah, absolutely.
And but also dude, in my personal opinion, if he truly wanted to rehab his image, or rehab essentially look at himself in the mirror, just to try to figure out how he can be a better person, I feel like he would have done that by now. And he wouldn't just keep digging hole after hole, or an even deeper hole for himself. So I just again, I hope he gets the help he needs, but I'm glad he's not going to be a Shark anymore. So.
Yeah, and I think that's the one thing. I think the one thing that I think that should come out of this to make clear. I want to echo what Felix said first, because obviously this dude has issues that he definitely needs help for. I hope he gets help for those issues, but first thing to do that is you kind of have to take accountability for yourself, and that seems to be something that Evander Kane doesn't really like to do.
It's your fault, Ian. Damn it!
It probably is my fault. But here's the thing. Regardless of what happens here, his days in Teal are numbered. So there's no situation here where, even if it goes to the arbitrator and the arbitrator finds in favor of Evander Kane, there's no path to him coming back on the team. His days as a Shark are numbered, regardless of how this ends. It's just an issue of how much money from the Sharks, if any, he's going to get when this is all said and done. As far as how long will this take, I don't know. I mean, the last time, again, the only thing we have to go on for this is the Mike Richards situation, and the Mike Richards situation was settled between the two parties. It's 3 months after his contract was terminated, and it hadn't reached an arbitrator at that point. So I don't think this is going to be over quickly.
So this will still loom around, but he, after most likely tomorrow, barring some crazy GM got a hair up his butt, will no longer be a Shark per se, except for as a paper transaction.
Correct. Yeah, they're gonna spike his contract. He's gonna be a UFA. He'll be free to sign with any other team or go wherever he wants. And again, we'll see if I think if anyone was gonna take Kane, I kind of feel unless he's gonna sign a $1 million 1 year show me deal, hoping to rehabilitate himself. I don't know where. I don't know of a team that's going to just jump on him. I think there was definitely the Sharks were willing to retain salary on him. They were willing to try and get another team on. So they would have had, team taking 50 and then another team taking 50 of that. And, so the team that ended up with them would have him for a Song, money-wise anyway, for the rest of his deal.
Mm-hmm.
No one seemed too keen on that, so I don't know if anyone's going to run out and quickly sign him. But I did, again, I just want to go back. Like, I did write an article on this on Teal Town USA. It kind of goes through the whole situation, how how it goes to an arbitrator and what some of the outcomes could possibly be if the arbitrator ends up deciding on it. Or the most likely thing, though, spoiler alert, is they will probably settle, because at the end of the day, if you're Evander Kane, you probably want a little bit of money instead of risking it all. I mean, although he's a gambling man, so maybe he goes all the way.
I mean,
All in, babe.
yeah,
All in.
yeah, pushing it all in for sure. So yeah, that's the situation for him. As for the Sharks themselves, we did run a poll question for you tonight on here. So if you are watching us live, get it in. We'll close it up in a few minutes here. If the Sharks get the entire Kane contract off the books, how should they use the cap space? And the choices were: go after someone at the deadline, cap space for deadline deal picks like they did last year, or save it for Hertl and others. And of course, I will mention this for Hockey Jerk. Announce the Barabanov extension already. Currently, we'll close this up in a few minutes here. We'll touch it up on this, but currently 80 votes and 70% say save it for Hertl and others. So, yeah, let me do this really quick as we get into that. But
No, that's not true, Ricky. I want to just hit this chat.
What?
Termination isn't arbitration. It only goes to arbitration if there's a failing. And no, that's not how it works. The way the CBA works is when the PA files a grievance, which they has, it goes to a neutral arbitrator. That's how the grievances work. So the grievance goes to neutral arbitrator, and they'll find either in Kane's favor or in the arbitrator's favor if it gets to them.
Landy, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you guys.
All right. Ian, first off, thank you for that clarification. That's very important in that regard. Landy, you wanted to touch up on the cap space situation, Sharks-wise, which kind of relates to the poll question. Just really quickly, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm thinking, if I'm looking at the Sharks salary cap structure right now, you kind of take a look at what Logan Couture is getting. And if we were saying Logan is going to be the top dog in the forward core, to not upset the apple cart there, you're going to have Hertl coming in at least at the same amount of percentage. So let me take a look here on Logan's cap hit percentage wise, but I'm thinking that's probably what would be offered on the table for Hertl. Now, Hertl at the beginning of the season did say he wanted to stay, and through the course of the season, we had been kind of recapping that the whole Kane drama added to this decision on whether or not to re-sign. Again, we still have no clue if the sides have talked yet, or what the Sharks are thinking about with regards to positioning for the playoffs and how that could be affected one way or another with Hertl being on the roster. So I think it's a very delicate situation still at the moment, but I wouldn't be surprised if Hertl comes in somewhere in the, I would say 8.25 range is probably what would be offered, and I would say at least at the 7 year. I think it starts at 7 years and works its way up to the full 8 years. Now, if the Sharks maybe want to spread the cap a little bit, I'm sure the representation would work with them. But again, I think that if you're on if we're just taking what Shark State Media says and what the organization has said about their plans for going forward, it's got to be re-signing him, because that's how you stay relevant, and that's how you stay.
All right. So basing off what everybody or what the majority of you have all said, use it for Hertl and others. Felix?
I mean, not surprised. Look, I love Hurdle. I hope that part of me hopes that he stays, but I think I agree with Ian. See where this team is at, and it's gonna be there are gonna be some tough decisions ahead. As I know, I think Landy would always likes to say, and it's
I think it's fluid, right? I think what
yeah.
Felix is getting at is it's a really fluid situation, right?
Yeah.
Because I think it's almost changing on a game by game basis. You take a look at the two really horrendous defensive games that the Sharks played, and you go, okay, well, this team is nowhere near. Then we'll see them whip off 4 wins in a row, and then you start to believe all of a sudden. So it really does depend upon if the organization thinks it's ready to take the next step, and it thinks it can take the next step with the bodies that they have available. Now, I would argue that there's still at least one A to B type forward short, even with the Kevin LeBanc back in the lineup. I still think that this is, it's basically has a $7 million hole in it. And that if we're really going by what Doug Wilson says and the way in which he puts together a roster, he would tell you that there's a $7 million hole in that space that should be allocated to a star forward.
Yeah, I just want to add too. The other thing is like, there's a lot of players like that I do like in the system, but like Jerk made a tweet today. He's like, I like Noah Gregor, but I need to see some finish at some point. And I replied, and I'm like, that's kind of been the theme like of the Sharks forward group. Like a lot of the younger guys that are, trying to take roles. It's like I like a lot of aspects of their game, but there's no finish.
Absolutely, and I think just to add to that, look, we've seen past Sharks teams try to outscore their problems. You're not outscoring anything if you can't finish.
Yeah.
Agreed. All right, guys.
I think the one positive is with the going back to the Evander Kane thing, with Evander Kane's money coming off the books, provided nothing happens, that puts a bunch of it back on the books, is that the Sharks can probably look at another buyout this summer too.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think you now start to see a mass accumulation of cap space, and maybe there's a targeted forward that they've got. Doug Wilson's got on the Ghost roster that's coming up. Who knows? We know that he plays around with that, and if there's a potential superstar available, he will be in on it if he has the money.
Yeah, and so it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, Denver Doyle, of course, mentioning right now, trade a first and Vlasic to Arizona to get him off the books. I don't think we want to give up a first-round pick. No.
Yeah, see, that's the problem, right? Like, I don't like Chicago kind of did a little of that this offseason, and are they any better off for it?
You know who I might think would take a flyer on Vlasic? Detroit. And the reason why
Stevie Yzerman is not picking up Marc-Edouard Vlasic.
If we took half the salary, if he retained half the salary, he needs bodies back there, and I think he needs a stabilizing force, kind of like a Justin Braun, right? We all said that was such a weird move for Philadelphia, right? But it's kind of brought in as that stabilizing force.
I think Detroit's season's kind of found money though. Like I don't think they need to add. I think they've got kids in the system. Yzerman's got a plan. I don't think he's gonna just go out and just add a vet like Vlasic with money kept or not.
Yeah. And the tough part too, also don't forget Vlasic does have a full no move. So he can just cancel whatever comes at him, whatever he feels like. Hell, he can't even get down to the Barracuda without his okay with it. So
yeah, but I mean, look, no movement clauses get waived all the time.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's
if
true.
You don't want to, if you're not playing and you're seeing the pine, that really motivates a player to rescind that.
And granted, let's be honest here, the healthy scratch of Vlasic kind of backfired on Bugner, didn't it? Eesh. So, All right.
Yeah, he was good. He was better for a game. He wasn't Vlasic, but he was better.
I mean, he did get burned by JVR tonight. That's where it's like, oh god, no. But I get it why. So. All right, thanks guys, appreciate it. We'll wrap it up with there. The Kuhre currently have a 1-0 lead on Henderson. Thank you. Shimilevsky with the goal to make it 1-0 for the Kuhre there. We'll get you on your way so you can get to enjoy that. In case you missed anything and you want to watch this again, check us out on tealtownusa.com or your favorite podcatcher, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube. Of course, hit that subscribe button. It really does do a whole freaking lot, please. SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, and of course, always available at tealtownusa.com. You know what? I'm my bad. I forgot that Jerry F. made a donation, so we'll make this really quick. No, you're not getting an intro. Capitals and Wild are in a shootout 2-2. The Golden Knights are up 1-0 on Chicago. The Ducks are no score after one period of play. The Kings are up 1-0 on the Red Wings. Philip Deneau with the goal there. The Stars end the Penguins' 10-game winning streak?
10-game winning streak, yep.
With the score of 3-2 on that one. And it was a comeback. They were already up 2-0, and then goals from Gurionov in the first. Some guy named Joe Pavelski and Rupe Hintz.
We do not jerk off Joe Pavelski on this show.
No, we do not. Colorado comes back and beats the Maple Leafs 5-4 in overtime in that one. San Ramon native Austin Matthews with a pair of goals, and Devon Taves with the game-winning goal in overtime. That's a tough one for Toronto to take in that one. Bruins needed a victory, and they beat the Tampa Bay Lightning 5-2 in that one. Pasternak with a pair of goals. So did Marchand. Thank you, Braden Point, for helping my fantasy team. The Florida Panthers beat the Carolina Hurricanes 4-3 in this one. Carner Verhaeghe with a pair in this one as well. Duclair as well. Wow. I mean, he's fit well in Florida. The Neon Buggers, a.k.a. the Blue Jackets, beat the Devils 4-3 in that one. Former Shark Gustav Nyquist with an assist there. The Predators beat the Coyotes 4-2. That's your first place, Nashville Predators. Thank you very much. Don't matter how much you like it or love it. You may not want some more of it. And that is it for that one. And like I said, it is 1-0 Barracuda over the Silver Knights at the Shark Tank. So you can check that out for there. So,
Buckeye, you're really teasing me. You're really teasing me with that one.
Oh, stop it. You don't know how much I can tease.
Yeah. Oh.
Right,
hey now.
All right. So, speaking of which, thank you very much, Felix, for that one. Pucknologists, we'll have a full recap on the week that was for Sharks hockey, and boy howdy, did it come to a crazy finish this week. So AJ and Jerk will recap everything that happened and more. That's at 7 p.m. on Sunday night. So be out there and support us on that one. So final thoughts. We'll begin with Erik Landi.
Final thoughts. I mean, we go from, complete despair to complete happiness within the span of, 20 minutes. So, it's got to be Sharks hockey, right? As far as where you could find me, it's at Erik Landi across all the social media garbage.
All right. Felix, as always, appreciate you joining us this evening. Great to have you on a successful Sharks win, no matter how bleak and painful it might have been, 2 hours and 20 minutes into it. But your final thoughts, and thanks for joining us, bud.
For sure. Always a pleasure to be on. Look, as Landy said, and that was, I couldn't agree more. Hashtag that's so Sharks. My final thoughts, the past couple of games have been from just utter frustration to this. and hopefully it's a lot more of us actually like breaking down wins, and less of us or less of Ian going actually batshit crazy on stream.
What's winning?
They're afraid of me. The Sharks are afraid of me. They know when I'm going to be on the show, and then they behave.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, we were talking about this before the show. Ian's like full on ready to go off on Martin Jones and how he's supposed to do this and everything, and then what happened? So
Yep.
Ian, my friend,
he's just clinging on to that hair.
Yep. Sorry. Just
A lot
just
of
to
it,
finish
too.
it up. Just to finish up my final thoughts. Of course, I do have on a much lighter note, I do have an article that's going to be coming out very soon. Y'all ever have any thoughts about this season's goal of the year so far? Well, I sure do, and there have been plenty, and you're gonna read about my thoughts very soon on that. So look out for that on the website.
terrific, Felix, and there's been a lot of candidates already, and we're not even halfway through the season. Ian, as always, bud, thank you very much for joining us. Your final thoughts, my friend.
When the Sharks do good, it's good. If you
Good
get
night,
a time,
everyone.
good night, everyone. No, my final thoughts, obviously, look at again, a couple really good games for the Sharks. Hopefully they can keep this going, because I understand Team Tank and I get it, but I just that's not fun to watch. Again, I know I've pimped it a few times this show already, but if you get a chance, go to tealtownusa.com, check out my article. It kind of lays out the whole Kane situation there pretty well, as to what you could expect and what the ramifications could be based on history, and so if you want to more in depth than we were kind of able to go on the show, then I think that's where you would like to go. Be gentle. I haven't written anything in a very, very long time. So it might not be my best work, but I definitely put a lot of time into it. So yeah. So I will see you guys when I am on next, which I'm sure is pretty soon.
Yep. I'm at PuckGuy14 on the Twitter and the Instagram. Again, we will be back with you tomorrow night, Sunday night, for Pucknologists. AJ and Jerk will recap the week that was. But for now, we're going to head over to our Discord channel where the chat just never ends, which it never really ends. So for all of us here, and thank you for watching. We appreciate each and every one of you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. And if you aren't watching live, leave a comment on your thoughts on how the Sharks came back. Evander Kane, what are they going to do with the cap space? We'll just leave a nice little chat and comment in there as well. So until Sunday night for Pucknologists, keep it real, keep it teal, keep it real teal. Have a great night, everyone. We will see you tomorrow night for Pucknologists.